Okay, for a minute, I want you to forget everything you think you know about the human body. Flesh, bone, biology, all of it. Let's start somewhere else. Picture the body as a living, breathing cosmos. Seriously, a silent, swirling galaxy of systems, all humming together with this ancient energy. We're going to travel inward now, right through the stellar dust of the skin, past the Milky Way of muscle, beyond the incredible nebula-like shapes of the ribs, and right into the very core, the chest cavity. And right there, in that inner space, two massive celestial bodies are locked in a kind of cosmic dance. On one side, you have the heart, but it's not just a pump. In this vision, it's a sun, pulsing with this luminous, golden white light of pure intention. Every single beat sends out these beautiful, coherent waves of clarity and purpose. And then, opposite it, like a rival star, is this dense, churning, crimson giant, the liver. It glows with a raw, visceral heat. It's not evil or chaotic, but it is absolutely primal. And you can almost hear it, the steady, clear rhythm of the heart, the sound of order, against the deep, powerful thrum of the liver, the sound of pure, untamed energy. And between them, currents of power, arc and clash. That silent war, well, it's defining every single moment of your life.
And the ancient blueprint, the very source code for this entire inner conflict, it comes from this one verse. Vayisratzu habanin bikirba. Now, on the surface level, the pshat, it seems pretty straightforward, right? And the children struggled violently within her. It just sounds like the story of Rebecca having a really, really tough pregnancy with her twin sons Jacob and Esau. Yeah, but it's so much more than that. The masters of the mystical tradition, the ones who gave us the Zohar, they looked at this verse and saw something else entirely. They knew the Torah isn't a flat book, it's a multi-layered reality. And this single sentence, it's not just a historical account. It's the foundational teaching, the literal operating manual for the epic drama playing out inside of every single one of us.
And that's the absolute key right there. This isn't just a story, it's a map. It's a living, dynamic schematic of the battle happening in your body, in your mind, and in your soul, right at this very second. The ancient wisdom looks at this story, two brothers at war in the womb, and sees the ultimate allegory for two primary forces that are constantly at war inside our own consciousness. Exactly, it's literally the story of your inner life. That war between those two brothers, that's the war inside you. This one verse is the master key that unlocks the entire blueprint of our inner cosmos, and it reveals the forces that are pulling us in two completely different directions at once.
So get ready, because we are going on a complete journey through all four levels of this teaching. We're going to start with the literal story, what we're calling a war in the womb. Then we'll zoom out to see how the body is a cosmos. After that, we'll meet the combatants in heart versus liver. And trust me, this is where it gets really interesting. And then we're going deep. We're going to the secret level to uncover the secret operating system that's running this whole show. From there, we'll get super practical and learn how we can actually engineer inner harmony. And finally, we'll walk the path of integration. By the time we're done, you're going to see how this ancient story is your personal key to understanding and maybe even mastering your own inner world. Okay, first up, a war in the womb. Look, before we can get all cosmic and mystical, we have to feel the raw, human drama of this moment. Rebecca's experience isn't just an introduction. The absolute violence of what she's feeling, both physically and spiritually, is the launchpad for this entire teaching. Totally. I mean, think about it. She gets so distressed that she literally says, "If this is what it's like, why am I alive?" She has to go and seek a divine answer. This is not morning sickness we're talking about. It's a full-blown existential crisis. All because the war inside her is so intense it makes her question her own life. That intensity, that's our starting point.
Now you have to check out this word Vayisratzu. It is a linguistic and spiritual masterpiece. The entire paradox of this inner battle is baked right into this one Hebrew word. So on one hand, it shares a root with the word larutz, which means to run. This gives you this image of two separate energies, two people, two destinies, just running on completely different tracks, pulling away from each other toward opposite goals. But, and this is just brilliant, it also shares a root with laratzotz, which means to crush, to shatter something, to break it. This implies a violent head-on collision, a brutal struggle for dominance inside a very small space where one force is trying to completely overwhelm the other. So, which one is it? Are they running apart or are they trying to destroy each other? And the mystical answer is yes, both, at the exact same time. And if that doesn't perfectly capture the tension of our own inner lives, you know, that feeling of being pulled in two opposite directions while also feeling like there's a civil war raging inside you, I honestly don't know what does.
So, how does this ancient story of running and crushing actually map onto us, right here and right now? Well, this is where we shift from the historical setting of a womb in ancient times to the ever-present reality of our own bodies. The Kabbalistic tradition sees the human form as a microcosm, a perfect holographic reflection of the entire universe. Right, and inside this personal cosmos, this humaniverse, there are three main centers of power. Think of them as three capital cities that govern the whole territory. These are the headquarters for the different levels of our soul.
So here's the map of you. Up at the top, you've got the command center, the brain, the moach. This is the palace of our highest soul level, the Neshama. It's like our antenna to the transcendent, the seat of pure consciousness where we connect to the divine. Then in the middle you have the heart, the lev. This is the throne room of our spirit, the Ruach. Now this isn't just raw consciousness, it's the part of us that translates that higher consciousness into the world of feeling. It's where our intentions are formed, where we feel love and courage and make moral choices. And then down at the base, we have the liver, the kaved. This is the engine room. It's the seat of our raw life force, what's called the animal soul, the Nefesh. Its job is to manage the physical body, our appetites, our drives, our vitality. It's pure, unvarnished power, brain, heart, liver, Neshama, Ruach, Nefesh. This is the basic hierarchy of your own inner kingdom.
And this brings us to the absolutely mind-blowing reveal from the Zohar. That primal war of Vayisroch 2, that running and crushing, is the ultimate allegory for the battle between two of these great power centers. It is the eternal conflict between the heart and the liver. So Jacob and Esau, they're not just some guys from an old story. They aren't even just archetypes. They are the names the Torah gives to two massive forces living and fighting inside of you, right now.
I mean, just think about it. The parallel is absolutely perfect. Jacob is described as an ishtam, a simple, introspective man, a dweller in tents. He's the quiet, contemplative soul. That is your heart. It's the home of the Ruach, your inner awareness, the seat of your intention. Mystically, its energy signature is white or gold, the color of clarity and mercy. And then you've got Esau. He's called a man of the field, a hunter. He's hairy, impulsive, physical. That's your liver. It's the home of the Nefesh. It represents raw, unfiltered bodily drive. It is the seat of appetite, of craving. And its color? It's red, Adam, the color of blood, impulse, raw power, and the energy of judgment. It's contemplation versus craving. That's the war. So what is the heart's actual job description in this inner government? As our inner Jacob, its main function is to be a kind of refinery. It takes all the raw data and chaotic energy of life, all the input from our senses, all the desires coming up from the liver, and it transforms that raw material into conscious intention and higher purpose. It basically governs our entire spiritual and emotional landscape. Its prime directive is always balance, harmony, and connection to something bigger than itself. You know that little whisper of conscience you hear before you make a choice? That still, small voice? That is literally the voice of the heart. And in the cosmic government of the body, the Zohar is crystal clear. The heart is the king. And all the other organs, especially the powerful liver, are meant to be its servants.
And then you've got the liver, our inner Esau. This is the engine room, the power plant for the whole system. On a physical level, it processes our blood, the actual fuel of our existence. And spiritually, it's the source of our appetite, our desires, our passions, our vitality, our raw power, our koach. But the Zohar doesn't dismiss it, not at all. It calls the liver the great and large servant, acknowledging just how immense and absolutely necessary its power is. But its nature is pure impulse. It wants what it wants, right now. It's not evil, not even a little bit. In fact, it's essential. Without the liver's power, the body would just die. But when its raw red drives go unchecked by the heart's guidance, it will drive the entire system straight off a cliff.
All right, let's go even deeper. We are now entering the fourth level of understanding, this sod, which means the secret. We've seen the story, we've unpacked the allegory. Now we're going to pop the hood and actually look at the mystical mechanics, the cosmic operating system that is running this entire inner war. This is the why behind the what. You know, why is the system designed this way? What is the actual energetic architecture that creates this conflict in the first place? Let's get into the source code.
Okay, to really wrap our heads around these ancient and pretty esoteric concepts, let's use a modern analogy. I want you to think of your soul, your entire inner being, as a super advanced quantum biological computer. And it's not just running a single program. It's running two powerful competing subsystems that are constantly fighting for processing power, for resources, and for control of the user interface, which, by the way, is you.
Okay, let's break this down. At the very highest level, you've got the cloud. This is the Ein Sof, the infinite, boundless divine energy. That's the source of all potential. But that energy isn't just chaos. It's structured by the source code. In Kabbalah, this code is the 10 Sephiron. They are the fundamental channels through which divinity flows to create all of reality. Now, inside your personal system, you have a central processor, a CPU. That's your heart. It's designed to run the really complex, nuanced code for things like awareness, empathy, balance, and all the higher-level functions. But that CPU is power-hungry. It gets its juice from the resource engine, or the power supply unit, and that's your liver. It runs the fundamental, low-level code for raw power, allocating energy for survival, fight or flight, and basic desire. And here's the most important part of this whole analogy. You are the system administrator. Your conscious choice, your spiritual work, every single decision you make acts as the firewall. You are constantly regulating which subsystem gets priority access to the system's resources. So are you running the heart's code or the liver's code?
Now look at this. This whole system is hardwired directly into the source code of reality itself. The heart, our inner Jacob, is energetically aligned with the Sephirah of Tiferet. Tiferet means beauty or balance. It sits right in the absolute center of the tree of life, and its whole job is to perfectly harmonize the expansive, giving energy of Chesed, mercy, on the right side, with the restrictive, disciplined energy of Givarah, severity, on the left. Its color is gold, or the white of pure, clear light. And the liver, our inner Esau, is aligned with Givarah itself, strength, severity, judgment. This is the primary Sephirah on the left side of the tree. It's the source of boundaries, discipline, and raw, untamed power. Its color is red, crimson. So you see, this conflict isn't a mistake. It's not a bug in the system. The tension between harmony and raw power is literally built into the fabric of reality.
Now let's talk numbers for a second, because in this system, numbers are never just random. 5 is the number of the heart. Why? Well, its Sephirah, Tiferet, is the 5th of the 7 lower Sephiroth that build the world. But even deeper than that, the number 5 represents the center point of a cross. You know, north, south, east, west, and the center itself. It is the number of radical integration and perfect balance. Right? It's the number of our 5 senses, which the heart has to integrate into a coherent whole. And it's also the 5th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, Hey, which represents revelation and the divine breath itself. It's the number of harmony, through and through.
Then you have the number 13. In Jewish mysticism, this number is huge. It represents the 13 attributes of divine mercy. And here's the incredible part. This is the ultimate goal of the entire system. And you can't get there by ignoring or destroying one of the components. The goal is not for the heart to kill the liver. Jacob isn't supposed to eliminate Esau. Exactly. The goal is for the heart's system of balance, Tiferet, to subordinate, to tame, and to refine the raw, fiery power of the liver's Gevurah. When that harmonization happens, which is symbolized by Jacob receiving the blessing that was meant for Esau, the entire system levels up. It becomes a clean channel for much higher spiritual state, for these 13 streams of divine compassion to flow through. You don't eliminate power, you learn how to channel it.
All right, enough theory. Let's get really practical. How do we actually do this? If you're the system administrator of your own soul, sitting there at the keyboard of your life, how do you actively start to engineer harmony? Right? How do you manage this built-in conflict and make it work for you instead of against you? How do we take this ancient, incredible blueprint and become the architects of our own inner peace?
Because look, it's one thing to have the blueprint, to sit back and admire the complexity of the design. It's a completely different thing to actually pick up the tools and start building. This is the central question for anyone who's serious about personal growth. Yeah, how do you apply this incredible ancient wisdom to the daily grind? To that constant tug of war between your highest intentions and your most primal impulses. Between what you know you should do and what you really, really want to do in the moment.
Okay, to make this really concrete, we've got 2 powerful ways you can think about this work. 2 models. First, for the gamer in all of us, let's look at it like it's a video game. It's intuitive, it's fun, and it's actually surprisingly accurate. And then, for the more analytical part of our brains, we'll switch gears and see it as an act of cosmic engineering. This is all about system dynamics, feedback loops, and executive control. But both analogies are getting at the exact same thing, the conscious, moment-to-moment work of harmonizing your inner world.
Okay, let's go into video game mode. You are the main character in the game of your life. On your screen, you've got 2 main power bars. One is blue, and it's labeled Wisdom. That's fueled by your heart. The other is red, and it's labeled Hunger. That's fueled by your liver. Now, the Hunger bar is your turbo boost. It's your rage mode. It's your sprint button. It gives you these quick, powerful energy boosts. But if you use it recklessly, it drains super fast and leads to system crashes. burnout, anger, bad decisions. Meanwhile, the blue wisdom bar recharges much more slowly. You get points for conscious acts of kindness, for learning, for meditation, for acting with integrity. But here's the key mechanic of the game. You can spend your hard-earned wisdom points to control and channel the hunger bar. And this lets you use its incredible power for these epic special moves, like a burst of creativity to finish a project, or intense focus to solve a problem, all without crashing the system. So the goal of the game is not to get the hunger bar to 0. You need that power. You can't win the game without it. The goal is to always have enough wisdom in your meter to keep the hunger bar in check. That is how you win.
And that brings us to the final and honestly the most important point of this entire explainer, the path of integration. The ultimate takeaway from this whole deep mystical system is this. The fight between your heart and your liver, between your inner Jacob and your inner Esau, is not a war to be won by one side destroying the other. No, it's a dance to be learned, a system to be harmonized. It is not about elimination, it's about elevation and integration.
This ancient quote from the Zohar just says it all, perfectly and so poetically. The liver is the throne for the heart, and the heart is the throne for the brain. Now really stop and think about that metaphor. A throne is not a prison. It's not a cage. A throne is a stable, powerful foundation. It's the thing that supports and elevates the king so he can rule effectively. Your liver's raw vital power, your inner Esau, is meant to become the stable throne upon which your heart's refined spirit and intention, your inner Jacob, can sit and rule. And that refined heart-centered intention, in turn, becomes the throne that supports your highest connection to pure consciousness, your brain, your Neshama. It's a perfectly integrated, beautiful inner kingdom.
So let's leave you with this one final thought. That constant tension you feel every single day. That struggle between who you aspire to be and what you just feel like doing in the moment. Between your higher self and your primal cravings. It is not a bug. It is not a design flaw in the human system. It is the central feature. The struggle between Jacob and Esau, between the heart and the liver, is the very engine of our spiritual growth. It's the friction that makes transformation possible. It's the resistance that builds our spiritual muscle. Without Esau's raw power, Jacob has nothing to refine. Without the struggle, there's no real elevation. The battle is the path.
Thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. And if you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.